Turner, who is the head of the Social Studies Department at Rogers High School, about what it has been like to teach and be responsible for students and curriculum this past year. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Tell us what it was like when you realized we were really in for it.
Last year on the 13th was the last day we had school in person. I do remember that having my last class on that day, and the students were nervous about the sickness, you know, the idea of people they loved and themselves, and being concerned about people being ill with this. So there was a lot of fear. Technology-wise, students in Newport had already gotten Chromebooks taken home, but some people had left it in the locker or might not have been in school that day. So it was a matter of making sure everybody had one, and then to get them more familiar with using it, because we did use them in school, but it wasn't, you know, absolutely necessary to have it. And then in like a flash, students had to be able to have the technological literacy to be able to use their computer. And that included an entire new, world of do people have Wi-Fi? Making sure our lessons translated to the kids at home. We had a little bit more luck in many ways, I think, than some of the struggles of the different age groups and the different content areas. I feel like math and science and subjects where you had a lot of examples, writing on the board, real time, that was a shift that for us, we could do a little bit more, talking, sharing of slides, interaction with the kids. And so that's something that we're actually proud of, is how we were able to turn the style of education into in-person to distant. Fall, when this district went back into what we called what became known as the hybrid format, which is we had some students in the room and then we had some students at home, to be able to teach to the kids in the room plus the kids at home at the same time. That has been like nationwide. That was a big struggle. In my classroom in a normal year, we normally have 25 desks in a room. What I just showed you was 15 desks. So the hallways are divided down the middle, arrows telling the students which direction to go. We also have fans facing upward to move the air out. We have windows that are open to the outside with fans blowing the air out. The carpentry students built plywood holes to be able to push the air out. They purchased ventilating filters for us. So to get the air circulating, that was wipes to clean your desks in between classes. So those are certain things just to make sure we were complying with the safety.
Did you feel safe?
I did. I remember when we were coming back, there was some nervousness about it. Like, again, like, oh, is everyone going to get sick? Like, are all the kids going to get sick? Are we going to get sick? But once you started to come, it was almost like once you started to come back and the days went by, you just felt more confident that we were doing everything we could do. And luckily, we didn't have major outbreaks. And so,
it seems to me that there were things that were obviously lost when we all went virtual, and there were things that were gained in a way. Do you have a sense of that at all?
So much was lost in teaching. There's such a interaction that you have with people, even reading expressions and having a student make a comment that brings on another discussion, and just the live energy in the classroom that can't be replicated in this format. There's a lot more to learning than just, here's the information, learn it on your own, and report back. There's so much more to school than just learning content. There's learning, being able to, develop socially, emotionally. And you can see in society, I think it's actually shown a spotlight about how much the schools actually do in addition to just book learning. I mean, schools are a lot more central to the community than people realize, and how much outreach there is through schools, whether it was the prom last year or graduation, which was all done virtual. There's a lot of moments that were lost for the kids that are celebratory. So that part was really sad to see. I guess it was the sense of community that was the greatest loss for the kids. And also little things that people don't realize, like you know, if you ever have a handout you make for a student, like you have a copy of something or a textbook that they can actually use, all of that was now on the screen. So for the kids to be able to learn how to have to do everything digitally, I see the loss as being that sense, that interaction, the personal interaction, and the gain may be technological skills, but also understanding about how much more there is to school. We always joke in education, every student is the variable. Like everybody has their own experience. So for some kids, it was like, hey, distance learning is the best. I'm able to just do my work. I don't have any of the nonsense. I'm just going to do it. So a lot of introverted students seem to do okay with that. But the extroverts, or the kids who learn like the social, they suffered greatly. Really, so really, I think we'll be in really good shape to incorporate this distance platform with live learning. I have all my organization of the lessons that I have now on an electronic platform. I'll be able to reach students who might be out on you know, who are out sick, who might be to have to take a leave for some reason. Everything we joke about, the snow days, like all that stuff that we can now have, but then to have people back and have that interaction, I feel like, wow, that could be really a big change in the field.
In the midst of all this, we had racial unrest and an incredibly divisive election. How did the school community deal with that not being together?
It was very difficult to do. As a history teacher, we try to incorporate, you know, the concepts that were brought up through in the protests movements of the past year into discussions and into examples of it. There has been more of an attempt, I think, to let students know that their issues are heard and that their voices matter in the school. Because we are a diverse school and have a diverse population, we have worked to integrate a variety of different cultures into our curriculum. And so, because we want kids to feel connected to it that way. So I do feel like we just had to turn it up a little bit. Discussions can get heated. So you try to teach kids also how to be able to carry on a discussion without, you know, anyone coming to blows or anything. It's more of a struggle for kids, I think, on Zoom and Google Meets, like turning their camera on, and there's like a self-consciousness about that. So that was harder this year to draw kids out, to get them to engage. I think if you talk
a level of conversation happening in the country now in kind of all sectors about, you know, what do we want to have happen next? Do we want to go back to how things were, or did we learn some things now, or did things change in a way that this is an opportunity, a pivot point, if you will, to make things better or different in a hopefully good way? And so we're ending all of these interviews by asking the person, both you professionally and you as just a human being, what do you think we should be doing next? What should be happening next in terms of how we think about the end of this pandemic, which hopefully is on the horizon?
I'm hoping that there comes back to a sense of appreciating the little things in life. I mean, it was a lot of people felt who had a little bit more closeness with family and like pulling together feeling, but missing out on the things we took for granted, whether it's being in big groups or, you know, going to shared group large experiences. We had a fire drill about 3 weeks ago. It was an accident. Something happened. A wire got crossed. So we went out. It was 12 degrees out. We went outside. And in that day, there's not the full population of the school. So there was only, you know, maybe 200 students in the school total. And in my section where we went out, there was probably like 70 kids. Everybody was in masks. Everybody was distant. but it was the first time for all of us that we'd been actually in a group of that large of people, and everybody looked around and was like, oh my gosh, like, how could we actually miss a fire drill? That we missed being in the community of people. And the kids were kind of laughing about it, like, wow, this is the first time I've been around more than like my little pod and my, family. And luckily, there was a lot of people that fared okay in the pandemic. And then there were to respect and understand how much suffering there was. If it didn't touch your doorstep, it touched somebody else's. So professionally, I think that we did some great work modernizing the method of delivery of instruction. And we have become, the teachers, we kind of joke how good we are at tech now, education tech. So the format we use is Google Classroom. So to be able to manipulate, cut, paste, PDF, editable docs, videos, shared videos for students, editing things down, sharing slides, all kinds of stuff, like the tech stuff that we were all probably average about before, but now we've become like performing. So if we can keep up with the tech, that part professionally is really good. So, and the students also, what we're forgetting too is that there was that big, and there still has been, but that learning curve of kids to become more comfortable with this format. So they have that skill. To think about your question about the pivot, there's no going back in my mind. Like, there's no going back. There's no going back to like a normal. There's always like the new normal, people say. But there definitely the inequalities in education became visible.
Yeah.
And that is something that I'm hoping now be able to take a closer look at and examining that. There were kids who needed to be in school, who wanted to be in school, who school is an escape. School is a place for help. There will take a great deal of effort on the education world to try to help recap and help restart the kids who did not have a good year.